Yo, the rap world might be standing on the brink of one of its biggest shocks in years. Because all signs are pointing to Kendrick Lamar actually confirming his next album, and it's coming through Dave Free. Now, hear me out. This isn't just another social media rumor. Sources close to the PG Lang circle are whispering that something huge is underway. And the clip that leaked? It's sending shockwaves. Late last night, multiple insiders claim a short audio snippet surfaced. In it, you can hear a voice that sounds unmistakably like Kendrick, deep in conversation. But right beside him, there's another voice, calm, confident, and fans are convinced it's Dave Free, not just as a manager or producer, but as the architect of the entire album's rollout. The speculation? Kendrick isn't just finishing this project, he's entrusting Dave Free with absolute control. That's a power move the rap world rarely sees. And it gets hotter. One insider says tensions were already simmering between Kendrick's longtime collaborators and Dave Free's inner team. There are accusations of creative betrayal, whispers that some folks from Kendrick's camp feel sidelined, maybe even cut out completely. Meanwhile, Dave's people are playing their cards close to the chest, refusing to confirm anything, but also not denying everything. Fans are divided. Emotions are running high. If this turns out to be true, it's more than just a new Kendrick album. It could rewrite how we understand his partnership with Dave Free and shift control of his legacy. The rap community is buzzing, drama is building. And now, the big question, is Kendrick about to drop a masterpiece orchestrated by Dave Free? Or is this all just smoke and mirrors? The story really begins a few days before that leaked audio even hit the timeline, because behind the scenes, people close to Kendrick were already whispering that something was shifting in the Poglang universe. A quiet tension, a strange energy. Folks who normally acted cool and unbothered were suddenly moving different, texting less, meeting more, staying late in studios with lights barely on. And the name that kept coming up over and over again, whether people wanted to admit it or not, was Dave Free. See, everybody knows Dave and Kendrick been locked in from way back, like a bond that survived the TD era, survived the departures, survived the twists and turns that break most industry relationships. But recently, insiders claim Dave was stepping into a much bigger role, not just creative, not just director-level influence, but full control over how Kendrick's next album would be shaped, delivered, and dropped into the world. And fans were shocked because Kendrick is usually silent, mysterious, controlling every detail of his art. So why now? Why let Dave steer the ship? It all started when a source, someone who allegedly works security at a certain studio in LA, posted on a small burner account talking about how Kendrick had pulled up 3 nights in a row. Nothing unusual about that, except the sessions weren't booked under Kendrick's name. They were booked under Dave Free's. That alone got people buzzing. But then the source went further, saying Dave was the one giving instructions to engineers, checking mixes, calling shots like he was the main general in the room. Kendrick, according to the source, was locked in, quiet, focused, but it was Dave setting the tone. Emotions ran high among fans because they didn't know whether this meant greatness, conflict, or something deeper. And as all this was happening, the clip dropped, the blurry, shaky audio from outside the studio door. You could barely hear anything at first, just muffled voices and the hum of machines. But people who played it with better headphones, who slowed it down, who boosted the frequencies like they were on some detective mission, claimed they heard Kendrick say, "Yeah, let's lock it in, but you gotta be the one to handle it." Then another calmer voice, one that fans swore belonged to Dave, said, "I got it. I'ma make sure it lands right." That 6-second moment changed everything. The internet took off like rockets. Blogs started posting wild claims. Fans were divided. Some were excited, saying this was the return they'd been begging for. Others were nervous, saying Kendrick letting someone else direct his artistic comeback felt risky. And then there were those who believed the entire thing hinted at drama deeper inside the Paglang structure. Betrayals, disagreements, hidden arguments that the public never got to see. Because here's where the twist enters. Another insider, this one claiming to be close to one of Kendrick's longtime collaborators, posted that certain members of Kendrick's old creative circle felt cut out of the process. They said Dave was taking over everything, not even letting some of the usual producers into the sessions. One comment even said, "This ain't the family vibe no more. This is something else." That one line caught fire. Fans repeated it so many times, it was practically a slogan within hours. But while the rest of the world was spiraling, Kendrick and Dave were allegedly meeting late into the night. And according to someone who claims they were in the hallway outside one of these meetings, there was a heated argument, nothing crazy, but enough to catch attention. They said Kendrick sounded frustrated, repeating, "It has to be right. It has to feel like me." While Dave responded, "Trust me, I'm not gonna let you drop something that ain't timeless." After that, the hallway witness said the door slammed shut. And for a moment, everything inside went silent. Then music blasted, loud, intense, like the start of something big. This little snippet of secondhand drama fueled even more theories. People began guessing that the argument was about the rollout strategy. Some said Kendrick wanted to drop with zero warning, like he's done in the past. Others claimed Dave wanted a cinematic rollout, something bold and disruptive that would shake the whole culture. The idea of the two longtime friends disagreeing like that made fans anxious because the family was starting to look divided. And the story didn't stop there. A producer who's worked with big West Coast artists went live on Instagram, talking in circles, but hinting at something major. He said, "Look, all I'm gonna say is this. When you see two geniuses with different visions, sometimes sparks fly. But sparks ain't always a bad thing. Sometimes it's how you make the fire." Fans immediately connected the dots, thinking he was low-key confirming the tension between Kendrick and Dave. Then came the next twist. Someone from Dave Free's team denied everything on a long late-night space, saying, "Y'all are running wild with assumptions. Nothing is fractured. Nothing is weird. There's no beef. They working. That's all." But the way he said it, the pauses, the slightly shaky tone, fans weren't convinced. Commenters tore him apart, saying he sounded like he was hiding something, that he knew the drama was real but couldn't speak on it publicly. Emotions ran high in the chat. People were arguing nonstop. Meanwhile, Kendrick still hadn't said a single word. That silence alone made the whole situation feel heavier, like something big was brewing behind locked doors. And then, as if to stir the pot even more, a fan spotted Dave leaving the studio with a hard drive in his hand. They recorded it from across the street, zooming in through shaky hands. Dave didn't look stressed, but he looked focused, almost too focused, like he was carrying the entire future of the rollout in that one little device. The video went viral. Comments exploded. Some fans wrote, "That's it, that's the album." Others said, "Nah, bro, that's the rollout plan he's hiding." And that brings us to the moment where everything tipped. A close friend of one of Kendrick's relatives commented under a random post saying, "Trust me, the news is coming sooner than y'all think, and yes, Dave is the one holding the keys." That single sentence spread across the internet like wildfire. Reporters started calling sources. Bloggers started dropping exclusive claims. Suddenly, it wasn't just speculation anymore. It felt like confirmation. The world was buzzing. But right as the rumor reached its peak, something else happened inside the studio, something that nobody expected, something that shifted the entire narrative again. Right as the rumor reached its peak and the whole internet was vibrating with theories, something happened inside that studio that nobody saw coming, not even the people closest to the situation. According to one insider who swears they were present when everything went down, Kendrick called a last-minute closed-door meeting, not just with engineers, not just with Dave, but with a handful of people from his past and present, people who hadn't all been in the same room together in years. The tension was thick the moment everyone arrived. The insider said the room felt like electricity. Nobody was yelling, but you could tell this wasn't a friendly catch-up. Kendrick sat at the table with his hoodie up, barely making eye contact, while Dave stood by the computer setup like he was protecting something. And then Kendrick broke the silence with a single sentence that shook everyone. He allegedly said, "If we're gonna do this, everybody needs to be honest today." That one line set the tone for everything that followed. Apparently, the honesty came fast. One longtime collaborator stepped forward and said they felt replaced, saying, "I've been with you for a decade, and now I hear sessions happening without me. It feels like I'm being pushed out." Another person claimed they hadn't even been told the album was almost done and felt blindsided. Emotions ran high. Fans watching from the outside didn't even know this meeting existed yet, but inside, the air was thick with old loyalties and new decisions. Dave finally spoke up, according to the insider. He told them, "This isn't about replacing anybody. This is about getting something done without delays." But not everyone accepted that explanation. Someone shot back, "You've been making choices like you're the boss of the whole thing." And for the first time in years, Kendrick and Dave were forced to address their dynamic in front of people who had been part of their rise. And here comes the twist nobody expected. Kendrick didn't defend Dave outright, but he didn't criticize him either. He said something that caught the whole room off guard. "Y'all don't understand what I'm trying to create. It ain't about roles, it's about energy." Some people nodded, others looked confused. Dave remained quiet, watching everyone with that calm expression he's known for. But you could feel the underlying disagreement creeping back in, especially when someone asked Kendrick directly, "So who's leading this then? You or him?" The insider claims the room went silent for a full 10 seconds. Then Kendrick said, "We're leading it." But the tone didn't convince everybody. One person even whispered underneath their breath, "Yeah, right," thinking nobody heard it, but apparently Kendrick did. His head slowly lifted, and he looked straight at the whisperer. He didn't say a word, just stared. The vibe turned heavy. While all this was going on, news started leaking outside without anyone realizing. Someone from the hallway, hearing pieces of the conversation, started texting their friend, who started tweeting vague details. Within minutes, fans online were already posting things like hearing big arguments inside the studio and Kendrick and Dave disagreeing heavy. The blogs picked it up instantly. Emotions were running high on the timeline as people chose sides. Some supported Kendrick taking the reins. Others insisted Dave should run the rollout completely. It became a whole online civil war. Meanwhile, back inside, Dave finally stepped in and said what many felt he had been avoiding. He told the room, "Kendrick asked me to handle the rollout because he wants to focus only on the music. I'm not forcing anything." And that's when Kendrick added, "He's the only one I trust to do it right." That statement shifted the atmosphere again. The ones who were frustrated fell silent, some looking down, others staring at the floor like they were processing betrayal. The insider said one person got visibly emotional, saying, "So all of us just gotta accept we're out of the loop until you're ready?" Kendrick didn't respond right away. He rubbed his hands together thinking, breathing deep. Then he finally replied, "I just need things controlled. Last time was chaos. He didn't specify which last time, but everyone assumed he meant the end of the TDE era. The drama, the rumors, the delays. But the tension wasn't just coming from Kendrick's old collaborators. The insider said even people from Dave's side were frustrated. One person from his team said, "You're asking us to do a rollout with pressure from every direction. We need clarity, not secrets." The irony was wild. For once, Dave's own people were pushing back against his quiet, strategic vibe. And then, according to the insider, came the biggest turning point of the meeting. Kendrick told the room, "The album is done." The phrase dropped like a bomb. Nobody expected it. Jaws dropped. A couple people even gasped. This whole time, everyone thought he was still recording, still piecing things together, still polishing. But no, he was finished. It was the rollout that was causing all the conflict, not the music. Immediately, questions flew out. Done? How long? When? One person even said, "Wait, if it's done, why are we arguing?" And that's when Kendrick looked at Dave again and said, "Because the release is in his hands now." The insider swears that people exchanged glances, some confused, some irritated, some impressed, but nobody said a word. Outside the studio, fans were already freaking out because a random tweet had gone viral claiming, "He's prepping an album drop with Dave." Nobody knew it was true yet, but the timing of the leak was insane. The internet was starting to pick up steam just as the meeting was boiling inside. Back in the room, someone asked the question everyone was scared to say out loud. "So when is it dropping?" The insider said Dave didn't even look up. He just tapped the hard drive sitting next to him and said, "When it's supposed to." The vagueness made some people sigh in frustration. One person even mumbled, "Bro, think he Dr. Dre now," under their breath. But Kendrick heard that too. He shot the person a warning look, not angry, but stern enough to make them sit straighter. The meeting kept going, and the insider says at one point Dave played a tiny snippet of a track just to calm the room down. The second the beat dropped, everyone went silent. Then Kendrick's voice came in, sharp, controlled, passionate. Even the people who were upset couldn't hide their reactions. One person whispered, "Oh yeah, this is different," while another swore they felt chills run down their arms. That moment of unity didn't last long, though. Another argument sparked when a producer asked why they weren't included in the final mix. Someone else complained they didn't know what direction the album took. The group kept talking over each other, the frustration bubbling back up. And that's when Kendrick finally snapped, not yelling, but raising his voice enough to silence the room. He said, "I don't owe every detail to everybody. I owe the best music to the world, and that's what I made." People froze. You could feel the room tighten. And then he said, "Dave's handling the drop. That's final." The insider said you could almost hear hearts drop. But there was no going back now. The decision was made. But as soon as the meeting ended and people started exiting into the hallway, something else happened. Something that would cause a whole new wave of drama once the world found out, because someone recorded something they weren't supposed to record. As people started spilling into the hallway after that tense meeting, the insider said everyone was shaken. Some were whispering to each other. Some were pacing. Some were just trying to breathe normally again after everything Kendrick laid on the table. But in that tense, emotional moment, nobody noticed the one person holding their phone at just the right angle, pretending to check messages while quietly recording everything. The insider swears this wasn't some random person. It was someone who felt pushed out, someone who didn't like being told the project was now controlled entirely by Dave, someone who wanted proof that things weren't as perfect as the outside world believed. The recording didn't catch clear audio from inside the room, but it caught enough of the aftermath. Frustrated whispers, irritated sighs, one voice saying, "He really chose him over all of us," another saying, "This is gonna change the whole game." And the biggest one, the one that set off the firestorm, a voice saying, "Dave got the album in his hands, and that's dangerous." When that person said dangerous, they didn't mean anything violent, but dramatic wording travels fast in this industry. Less than an hour later, that recording was sent to someone who definitely didn't need it. A gossip page that thrives off rap drama. A page that posts anything, true or not, if it gets clicks. Within minutes, they dropped the audio with the caption, "Kendrick's team divided. Dave Free blamed for taking control." Fans heard the word dangerous and lost their minds. The comments blew up instantly. Some people were defending Dave, saying he always had Kendrick's back. Others were convinced the two were falling apart behind the scenes. And once again, emotions ran high, the fan base was split, and the narrative spiraled out of control. Meanwhile, back inside the studio building, Dave was still in the room packing up equipment, organizing files, locking down the hard drive like it was gold. The insider said he looked calm, way calmer than the situation around him. Kendrick was standing by the window, looking out at the streetlights like he was thinking 1,000 thoughts at once. The energy between them wasn't hostile, but it wasn't relaxed either. It was two people who knew they were making a big move, a risky one, and the world might not react the way they hoped. According to the insider, Kendrick said quietly, "They ain't gonna understand." And Dave replied, "They will when they hear it." The words were simple, but the weight behind them was heavy. Kendrick's shoulders eased a little, like he wanted to believe Dave but wasn't fully convinced yet. And that tiny hesitation was noticed, not by fans, not by the outside world, but by someone else in the building. Because apparently, people were watching their body language like it was some reality show. And that's where the next twist came in. One of Kendrick's old associates, someone who hadn't been around much lately, saw the hesitation and took it the wrong way. They left the studio and immediately started calling around, telling people that Kendrick didn't trust Dave anymore, that the partnership was cracking. The rumor spread fast among industry folks, bouncing from person to person until it ended up back online through a completely different source. Suddenly, Kendrick doubting Dave became the trending topic of the hour. Blogs started picking sides. Some said Dave was pushing too hard. Others said Kendrick was being too sensitive. Others went full conspiracy mode, claiming the two were fighting over creative control, money, direction, influence. One page even claimed they had exclusive confirmation that Kendrick fired half his team, which was completely false but sounded spicy enough to go viral. Inside the studio, none of this noise had hit yet. Kendrick and Dave were too focused on hashing out the next steps. The insider said Dave opened a folder on the computer, showing Kendrick a mock-up of a rollout timeline, visuals, teaser ideas, possible drop dates. Kendrick nodded, thinking deeply. Then he said something unexpected. "We gotta do something the internet won't predict." Dave smirked and replied, "Oh, I got something for that." That moment right there, those words, apparently shifted everything. Kendrick walked over to the speakers, pressed play on a track, and the insider swears it was one of the most powerful songs he's ever made. Heavy lyrics, sharp delivery, deep emotion. It filled the whole room. No one spoke, not even Dave. And when the song faded out, Kendrick looked at him and said, "This the one that's gonna shake the whole thing up?" Dave nodded slowly and said, "Then we're using it first." But just as the two were finally locking in again, someone from the hallway burst into the room saying, "Yo, y'all seeing what's happening online?" That was the moment everything flipped. Kendrick grabbed his phone, looked at the notifications piling in, and his whole expression changed. Dave took out his phone, too, and saw the same chaos. The leaked hallway audio, the rumors, the dangerous comment, the claims about division. The insider said the room went silent for a moment. Then Kendrick muttered, "They always doing too much." But this time, it wasn't annoyance. It was concern. Not for himself, but for how the narrative could overshadow the album he'd just finished. Dave, on the other hand, was still calm. He leaned back and said, "Let them talk. They'll shut up when the music drops." But Kendrick wasn't as relaxed. He kept scrolling, reading comment after comment, and you could tell it was affecting him. Then came the next emotional moment. Kendrick turned to Dave and said, "I don't want people thinking this is falling apart." And Dave replied, "It ain't falling apart. It's moving." The insider said those words had weight, like Dave was reminding Kendrick of the bigger vision, the long plan they'd been crafting behind closed doors. But before they could regroup, someone else walked into the room, a close friend of Kendrick's family. They looked stressed, saying, "Your people calling me asking what's going on. They're worried." Apparently, the rumors had reached Kendrick's family before he could explain anything. That hit him hard. The family was left divided, some believing the internet noise, others defending him. Kendrick rubbed his forehead, annoyed now, saying, "I hate when the outside gets into the inside." And Dave said, "Then we control the story." But Kendrick wasn't sure. He kept pacing, thinking, second-guessing. The insider said you could feel the pressure building like steam inside the room. And then, without warning, Dave stood up, grabbed the hard drive, and said, "I'm going to fix this. Trust me." Kendrick looked at him, uncertain but hopeful, and Dave walked out of the room with a look that said he knew exactly what he needed to do. What nobody expected was what happened just minutes after Dave stepped out into the hallway, because he ran into someone he was not expecting to see, someone who changed the direction of the entire night. The insider says the moment Dave stepped into the hallway holding that hard drive, ready to do damage control, he froze, because standing right there in the middle of the corridor was someone he definitely didn't expect to see that night. It was a former collaborator, someone who had worked closely with both him and Kendrick years ago, someone who had drifted away during the transition from Tesh-E to Baglang. Nobody knew they were coming. Nobody invited them. And the look on their face said this wasn't a friendly drop-in. They stared at Dave like they'd been waiting for him. The insider said the air between them felt like old wounds resurfacing. The person walked up slowly and said, "So you really running everything now, huh?" Dave stayed calm, replying, "I'm running what Kendrick asked me to run." But the person shook their head, smirking like they didn't believe a word. "Nah," they said, "you running way more than that. People inside are upset. People outside are talking. And now everybody's saying you controlling Kendrick." Dave didn't flinch, but the insider said his jaw tightened just a little, like he was holding back frustration. He responded, "People gonna talk no matter what." The person stepped closer, lowering their voice. "Yeah, but some people inside think you're cutting them out on purpose, and they think you convinced Kendrick to do the same." That line hit heavy. You could feel the hallway tension rising again. Just then, Kendrick stepped out of the room behind them with that slow, thoughtful walk he does when he's processing too much. He saw the two talking and instantly understood the vibe. He asked, "What's going on?" The former collaborator turned to him saying, "Bro, your camp is falling apart and everybody's saying it's 'cause you letting him," pointing at Dave. "Take over everything." Kendrick closed his eyes for a second, exhaling slow. "You came here just to tell me what the internet's saying?" he asked. But the person shook their head. "Nah, I came because people who care about you think you pushing them away. They scared this album gonna drop, and they'll find out they not part of your world anymore. That hit Kendrick deeper than he expected. The insider said he looked genuinely conflicted, like his heart and mind were at war. "I'm not pushing nobody away," he said. "I'm trying to make something clean, something focused, something that's for the world, not for politics." The former collaborator replied, "But they don't feel that. They feel abandoned." Dave stepped in calmly, saying, "He ain't abandoning nobody. He's evolving." But the person fired back, "Evolving don't mean leaving everyone behind." That hit Dave harder than he let on. He took a breath and said, "This ain't about leaving people behind. It's about making sure he gets the drop he deserves." Kendrick turned to him and added, "And I trust him. That's why he's doing it." The hallway went silent. The insider said the former collaborator looked down, processing, the confidence cracking just a little. "So that's it?" they asked. "You really putting the whole rollout in his hands?" Kendrick didn't hesitate this time. "Yeah," he said, "I am." Hearing that out loud seemed to break the person's posture. Their shoulders slumped a little. They realized the decision was final. After a moment of heavy silence, they said, "I hope you know what you're doing." Then they walked away down the hallway without another word. The insider said it was one of the most dramatic exits they'd ever seen. Once they were gone, Dave sighed and leaned against the wall. "This what happens when people don't trust the vision," he muttered. Kendrick replied softly, "Nah, this what happens when people scared of change." They both stood there for a moment staring at the floor, letting the weight of everything settle. But before they could return to the studio, someone from Dave's own team rushed up with wide eyes and panic on their face. "Bro," they said, "it's getting worse." They handed Dave their phone, showing a new round of posts blowing up online. Another account had released a second clip, an edited one, mixing the hallway whispers with dramatic captions like Kendrick's camp collapsing and Dave taking over everything without approval. And the worst part? People were believing it. Kendrick rubbed his forehead, looking tired. "Man, they always twisting things," he said. Dave stayed composed, but you could tell he was annoyed. "This why I said we should have moved sooner," he replied. "They filling the gap with whatever they want." The insider says Kendrick walked back into the studio with determination now. He sat down, locked in, and told Dave, "We gotta take control of this." Dave nodded. "I know, that's what I'm about to do." And then came the moment nobody predicted. The insider swears Dave opened his laptop, pulled up a private folder, and showed Kendrick something he had ready for emergencies like this: a full rollout video concept, dramatic visuals, voiceovers, behind-the-scenes clips, and at the center of it, a message from Kendrick confirming the new album, but in a way that shut down all the rumors instantly. Kendrick watched it 3 times in silence. Then he looked at Dave with the first real smile of the night. "This the one?" he said. "This clears everything." The insider said Dave nodded like he'd known that from the start. "Then let's do it," he replied. But just as they were preparing to send the final file to the team, another twist hit, the biggest one yet. Someone from the outside, someone nobody expected, leaked a text that changed the entire narrative instantly. It was a message from someone close to Kendrick's family saying, "Yes, the album is coming. Yes, Dave Free is handling the rollout. It's already in motion." The internet exploded. The same people claiming Dave was dangerous a few hours earlier were now celebrating. Fans were shocked, excited, emotional. Blog pages scrambled to update their headlines. The drama flipped from chaos to triumph in minutes. Kendrick and Dave saw the post at the same time. The insider said they both laughed, not because it was funny, but because after all the tension, all the arguments, all the misunderstandings, confirmation came from the most random source. Kendrick leaned back and said, "Guess they know now." And Dave replied, "They've been waiting. Now we give them what they want." The mood in the studio finally softened. People who were upset earlier started calming down when they realized the truth was out. The hallway drama faded, and for the first time that night, the energy felt aligned. The insider said Kendrick looked at Dave, nodded, and said, "Drop it exactly how you planned." And Dave, with that calm confidence he always carries, said, "Say less." And that's how the entire night ended, with the world buzzing, the family divided but slowly coming back together, the team adjusting to the new reality, and Kendrick finally confirming through action, through trust, through Dave Free himself, that the new album is locked and ready. Not rumors, not speculation, reality, mixed with the chaos of the industry. And when that rollout hits, the whole world's gonna feel it. So after everything that went down that night, the arguments, the whispers, the leaked clips, the emotional confrontations in the hallway, the shockwaves across the internet, and the final confirmation that slipped out from someone close to Kendrick's own family, one thing became crystal clear. The world isn't just waiting for a Kendrick album. The world is waiting for a Kendrick album shaped, guided, and delivered through Dave Free. And whether people agree with it or not, whether fans feel excited or divided, this new chapter is already in motion. The energy is shifting, the storyline is locked in, and the rollout is coming whether the internet is ready or not. Fans are still reacting, still debating, still replaying every rumor trying to piece together the truth. Some are shocked that Kendrick gave Dave this level of control. Others believe it's the smartest move he could make. And somewhere in between, there are people who still think there's more to the story, more layers, more secrets, more twists that haven't surfaced yet. And maybe they're right. Maybe the real surprises are still ahead, sitting inside that hard drive Dave walked out with, waiting for the perfect moment to hit the world like a shock wave. But one thing is certain. The night Kendrick confirmed the album through Dave Free will be remembered as the moment the narrative shifted forever. A moment of tension, vulnerability, loyalty, and evolution. A moment where the music became bigger than the drama. And now it's your turn. If you're watching this, I want to know exactly what you think. Do you believe Kendrick made the right choice, trusting Dave with the rollout? Do you think the team was really divided, or was it all blown out of proportion by the internet? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Hit like if you want the album to drop sooner. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any updates. And turn on notifications, because when this rollout starts, you'll want to be here first.